Live from Studio 1 here at GBC Kanda with GTV Breakfast News. I am Malti Tisaida Sadiq. We'll do politics, we'll do health, we'll do business and trade. We'll take you to the international front. We're streaming on our social media handles at GTV Ghana. You can follow us there on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter and watch on the SCB on channel 278. Let's start off from politics. Now, the New Patriotic Party yesterday commenced the vetting of its presidential aspirants seeking to lead the party in the 2024 general elections. The aspirants vetted include Mr. Alan Kyerematen, former Minister for Trade, businessman Mr. Kwadwo Poku, and Dr. Mohamed Bawumia, the current Vice President. The vetting continues today, Tuesday, July 4, with other candidates including Mr. Boakye Jarko, former Energy Minister, Mr. Kwabena Agyapong, a former MPP General Secretary, and Mr. Kennedy Agyapong, the Member of Parliament for Asin Central. A statement issued by the Secretary to the National Presidential Vetting Committee, Mr. Evans Nimako, indicated that the remaining candidates would be vetted on July 5th and 6th.
I had a good interaction with the committee. Tomorrow, I will start my constituency tours in Greater Accra. I have decided that I'll introduce an innovation into my constituency tours by clustering constituencies for the purpose of bringing our party executives together, not just within their own constituencies, but in a few other constituencies in a cluster that will help energize the rank and file of our party.
Everything went well. The conversation was smooth. I answered all the questions they asked to the best of my ability. All the 16 regions and no makushia. Omunyina agya tum say me KMP Kwadwo Poku masem no ayede awura omutrim ama omufu say me Kwadwo Poku no me say for make 5 no enti am very me worry she say 5 no make am.
And GBC News will bring you the continuation of the vetting. But let's go to the court now. The Court of Appeal has reversed the decision by the High Court in Accra to start afresh the trial of former Cocoa Board boss Dr. Stephen Opuni and businessman Seydou Agongo. In a unanimous decision yesterday, a 3-member panel of the court ruled that the trial High Court misdirected itself with the decision not to adopt the previous proceedings of the previous court, which was presided over by the retired Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Clemens Honyenuga.
The trial of the former Cocoa Board CEO, Dr. Opuni, and businessman Mr. Seydou Agongo, the CEO of Agricult Ghana Limited, an agrochemical company, began in 2018. The two have been accused of allegedly causing financial loss of over 271 million cedis to the state in the purchase of Lithovit foliar fertilizer. Prosecution throughout the nearly 6-year trial holds the view that the fertilizer was not of good quality and have accused Mr. Seydou Agongo of allegedly using fraudulent means to sell fertilizers to Cocoa Board. In March 2023, the recently retired Chief Justice, Justice Enini Yeboah, appointed a new judge, Justice Kwesi Anochijima, to the case after the retirement of Justice Clemens Honyenuga. The prosecution then filed an application requesting the High Court to adopt the previous proceedings of the court before Justice Honyenuga, which had been ongoing for nearly 6 years. The High Court, however, in a ruling on April 4, 2023, ruled for the trial to start afresh, explaining that it would be unfair for the new judge to adopt the proceedings of the previous court, which had been saddled with numerous allegations. The Attorney General then filed an appeal at the Court of Appeal challenging the decision of the High Court to start the trial afresh, arguing that the decision was against the principles of fair trial. The 3-member panel of the Court of Appeal, presided over by Justice Philip Bright Mensah, ordered the High Court to adopt the records of the previous trial and continue the trial from where it ended. The court made the decision after it upheld an appeal filed by Attorney General Mr. Godfred Yeboah Dame.
Away from the courts, in complying with the ruling of the National Labour Commission, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission has directed the Controller and Accountant General's Department to restore allowances it erroneously removed to staff of GBC. In a letter to the Controller and Accountant General's Department dated 29 June 2023 and signed by the Chief Executive of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Mr. Benjamin Arthur, the letter is requesting the immediate restoration of the allowances in dispute. Following this, GBC and Fair Wages can now dialogue towards a review of the affected allowances. On June 9, 2023, the Union of GBC petitioned the National Labour Commission over the stoppage of allowances to some staff of the corporation by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, which described the allowances as unearned. The NLC summoned the two parties over the issue after workers of GBC threatened to embark on a series of industrial action. After both parties were given a hearing at a meeting, the Commission directed the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to restore the allowances that it had unilaterally withdrawn. And in the Western region, the Rapid Response Team, RRT, of the Forestry Commission has arrested 13 persons who were undertaking illegal mining in the Bonsa River Forest Reserve in the Western region. The arrest was made upon intelligence surveillance.
A statement from the Forestry Commission said the suspects were made up of 7 Ghanaians and 6 Chinese. The Rapid Response Team visited Epeso and Achiribwanda, which are French communities of the reserve, and a section belonging to Samatex, a private company where the RRT immobilized 5 excavators and 2 motorbikes. 2 long housing units and several fuel depots were also destroyed in the process by the RRT. The suspects have since been handed over to the Takwa branch of the Ghana Police Service to be processed for court. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Forestry Commission have called on the Ghana Police Service to quickly process the culprits for court. They also expect the law to deal with them without mercy. The Rapid Response Team was made up of 21 men drawn from 4 RRTs stationed at Takwa, Prestea, Samriboy and Takrade.
Now, expected jobs and income growth driven by AFCFTA is anticipated to lift at least 50 million people out of extreme poverty by 2035. For analysts, however, the slow pace of action is becoming a source of worry. At the second Discovering Namibia Intra-Africa MSME and Township Economic Expo and Business Conference 2023 in Swakopmund in Namibia, speakers were unanimous on the need to push businesses, academia, analysts, and especially the government to take realistic action. They say governments, as the implementers, must be held accountable for their commitments towards AFCFTA.
AFCFTA is one of the Agenda 2063 flagship projects, the Africa we want. AFCFTA is a vehicle to create decent jobs and wealth, enhance inclusive and sustainable development, support green recovery, and ultimately eradicate extreme poverty across the African continent and support the acceleration and attainment of most of the SDGs by 2030. Namibia is committed to the ambition of enhancing trade within the continent. So, Namibia is fully engaging all platforms, from technical working groups to the Assembly of Heads of States and Government in the AFCFTA negotiations. This is to advance the country's offensive and defensive interests. At the second Discovering Namibia Intra-Africa MSME and Township Economic Expo and Business Conference 2023 in Swakopmund in Namibia, the chief economist of Irongo region, Mr. Albert Christians, said Namibia is working steadily to implement AFCFTA, and this will make the voice of women and young people heard for consideration in the formulation of the consequential framework.
The AFTA is expected to create a very good opportunity to increase value addition and the establishment of viable and competitive industries in the continent that could create a lot of employment opportunities for our people, especially the youth.
UNDP residence representative to Namibia, Ms. Al-Kabatia, says Enhancing the capacity of MSMEs in informal and township economics will drive structural economic transformation through trade and investment.
UNDP pledges its commitment to work with all stakeholders to improve and strengthen the contribution and meaningful partnership of the MSMEs and informal economy, including with the full implementation of AFTA through capacity building initiatives, creating awareness and sensitization, and also by providing catalytic funding to support Namibia's efforts and contributions in the region towards maximizing the opportunities and benefits of AFTA.
It is envisioned that by effectively implementing AFCFTA, Africa will become the world's largest free trade area in terms of member country numbers, territory, population, and GDP.
Still on the AFCFTA, the Africa Economic Leadership Council says a visa-free movement in addition to a diplomatic passport for Africans will advance the cause of the AFCFTA. The council believes this will give traders easier and faster access to markets with efficiency. Also, with insurance, there's bound to be an increase in trade in Africa.
Economic Leadership Council is advocating for one passport for every African, so that we are in a position where if I want to go to Ghana tomorrow, I must get on the plane and go. You know, the regulations about this or that, government must find a way to collaborate, and all heads of states within the African Union must have one solution, so that you and I are able to do our work, and them and everybody else, in a seamless manner. These are the issues that we need to address, so that people can do trade seamlessly, so that the money can move in the continent.
One passport, one visa, where we can travel all the 55 African countries with ease. We as Africa Economic Leadership Council want to continue to promote synergies and the collaborations among our African brothers and sisters in different African states.
In that Abuja Treaty included a unified African passport, a unified African economy, free trade. The onus lies on everybody, and something that we at GateSpeak are taking in charge of to help sensitize the African continent to understand the basics, exploit them to the opportunities, and make sure that they are in sync with the African Union Agenda 2063.
And back in the capital, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, is welcoming any initiative, project or approach towards industrial wastewater management to help tackle water resources pollution in the country. The Executive Director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Henry Kokofu, disclosed this to GBC News' Oforiwa Dako.
Ghana's main industries are within food and beverage, mining, cement and oil and gas. During the last decade, operations in power, energy and chemicals have seen major expansion. The operations of these industries either require large volumes of water. However, an estimated 30% of this water ends as wastewater with various physical, chemical and biological pollutants. Currently, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, is monitoring and regulating these activities to protect the biophysical environment.
There are separate categories that we do run with and then monitor and regulate. I must say, we've already said also that it's a shared responsibility. When it comes to the environment, it's everybody's business to protect and safeguard it.
The Executive Director of EPA, Dr. Henry Kokofu, said that compliance of industries is more or less about 60%, and strengthened partnerships will bring about more technological opportunities for wastewater management in the country.
Within the spectrum of wastewater, we have challenges across, but they are surmountable once we get on board fully with technology, innovation and other solution systems. We will be better off when we combine efforts with those with advanced technology and other initiatives. So by and large, Denmark through the Danish Embassy in Accra has been on hand to help us get through it.
Sustainable Development Goal SDG Target 6.3 requires us by 2030 to improve water quality by reducing pollution, eliminating dumping and minimizing release of hazardous chemicals and materials, halving the proportion of untreated wastewater, and substantially increasing recycling and safe reuse globally. For GBC News, Ofeyiwa Dako reporting.
Let's go to the Volta region now. Phase 3 of the 5 districts water supply project was yesterday inaugurated at Adaklu in the Volta region. In September 2020, President Akufo-Addo cut the sword for the project, which was financed by a concessionary facility from Raiffeisen Bank International AG of Austria. The 11.5 million euro project will benefit some 89,150 people in 95 communities in central Tong, Adaklu, and Agotimezupe.
Phase 3 of the 5 district water supply project at Adaklu include the construction of 3 concrete tanks at Adaklu Kweloho, Adaklu Sofa, and Adaklu Katove to help keep the water safe from any bacteria. The completion of a water booster station at Adaklu Kweloho to transport water to Adaklu and Agotimezupe communities, and the laying of 175 kilometers of water pipelines. The Minister for Water and Sanitation, Madam Cecilia Dapa, is optimistic the completion of the project will reduce the incidence of waterborne diseases and improve income levels of women.
We are grateful to God Almighty that the government found the resources to undertake this very important project. Water scarcity, as we have already heard, will no longer be a problem of the beneficiary communities. Mr. President, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is taking steps to ensure that the delivery of potable water supply serves other productive uses for small enterprises within the beneficiary communities, which will in turn create direct and indirect jobs for our youth. Mr. President, I can assure you that under your visionary leadership, Ghana can achieve the SDGs, especially the SDG 6, which underpins about 10 other SDGs. Ghana has done a lot under your leadership.
With designs for phase 4 of the project ongoing, President Akufo-Addo told the Guardian that the focus of government is to ensure that all regions across the country are provided with adequate, safe, affordable, and reliable water services. The other beneficiary regions he announced are Bono East, Western, Western North, Northern, Northeast, Savannah, Upper West, and Upper East. He added that the project includes the construction of pipe water supply systems, support for construction of household latrines, health and hygiene, education, and environmental and social safeguards for 164 beneficiary communities with a total population of 154,826.
I was here in September 2020, some 3 years ago, to cut sword for the commencement of work on the project. And I'm glad that in spite of the political machinations that went on at the time with respect to this project, the chiefs and people of Adaklu trusted the Akufo-Addo government to live up to its promise and complete this water supply project on time and on budget. We in the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Minority Chief Whip, we keep our promises. It is good to know that some 89,150 people in 95 communities in central Tongu, Adaklu, and Agotimezupe will be served with potable water from the Volta River at Adadidome. I've been informed by the hard-working Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, the Honorable Cecilia Dapa, that designs for phase 4 of the project are ongoing.
The secondary Takoradi water supply project, which will cost 70 million euros and which will serve a beneficial population of some 1.4 million within secondary Takoradi communities, is expected to be completed by September 2025.
Away from Adaklu, curated with strong historical ties and rapidly evolving political, economic and security trends, Ghana and Portugal say they are determined to harness the full potential of their relationship for the mutual benefits of their citizens. This is expected to concretize in the next couple of weeks when President Akufo-Addo arrives in Lisbon for a state visit. These were some of the outcomes of the meeting between the Foreign Minister of Ghana, Madam Shirley Ayoko-Botry, and her counterpart from Portugal, João Gomes Cravino, in Accra.
Accra and Lisbon have been friends for over 441 years, but these ties are yet to be deepened to improve the lot of their citizens. With this in mind, now the two sides are poised to take their relationship a notch higher. Hence the visit of the Foreign and Defence Ministers of Portugal to Accra to meet with their Ghanaian counterpart. Also, the arrival in Accra is part of preparation towards a visit of President Akufo-Addo to Lisbon before the end of this month. Addressing the media, Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Madam Shirley Ayoko-Botry, said trade and investment serves as the bedrock of the relation between the two countries. But there is more to be done, especially at a time that a single market size of 1.3 billion people has been created under the AFCFTA.
We talked about programs such as the Planting for Food and Jobs program and the opportunities that it presents to foreign investors. Also, the overall transformative agenda to promote economic growth and employment generation to help address the rising youth unemployment.
Political, economic, and security, each of them in bilateral and in the multilateral frameworks.
On peace and security, defense ministers of the two countries expressed their readiness to work together to fight terrorism in the Sahel and on the sea.
Portugal has set up an Atlantic Center with Ghana will be proud to be able to join and partake strongly in.
The multinational corporation. We talked about the Atlantic Center. This is a Portuguese-led initiative that brings together 21 countries already.
Portugal has set up the Atlantic Center, an initiative with a membership of 21 countries to foster the participation of several national military and civilian experts from the Atlantic Basin countries and partners. Ghana is expected to join the alliance during the visit of President Akufo-Addo in Lisbon. Edward Nyako, reporting for GBC News.
Let's take you to the international front now. Israel has launched a large-scale military operation against Palestinian militants in the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank. Now, the raid started with multiple drone strikes, and Israel has sent in ground forces, leading to gun battles on